The diner smelled like burnt toast and dish soap. It was 7:06 in the morning. Outside, it was still dark. Snowflakes slid gently past the fogged-up window. Inside, the heater hissed. But it barely worked. Maria shifted her swollen belly and rubbed her lower back. She was 8 months pregnant and on her feet for the 5th straight day. She tied her apron slower than usual. Her hands shook from fatigue. She hadn't slept properly in 3 nights, but she smiled. Not for herself, but for her baby girl who kicked now and then like a tiny drum inside her. Maria had named her already Leela. Leela was her hope. At 22, Maria had no family left. Her mother passed away 2 winters ago, and her boyfriend left as soon as he found out about the baby. Since then, she worked the morning shift at Dave's Corner Grill, a tiny diner off the highway. The owner, Dave, was kind but tired of losses. Business was slow. He could barely afford help. Maria stayed, even when others left. This morning, she wiped the same booth 3 times, mostly to keep moving. The door jingled, and in walked a tall man in a black hoodie. He wore a beanie pulled low and sunglasses even though it was still dim out. Sighed. He looked like someone who wanted to be unnoticed but couldn't. His boots made no sound as he walked. He picked the booth by the window, the same one Maria wiped down a moment ago. She walked over with her notepad. "Good morning," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "Coffee?" The man nodded and removed his sunglasses slowly. Maria froze. Her heart jumped. It was Keanu Reeves. She'd seen his movies growing up with her mom on cheap DVD rentals. She remembered crying during The Lake House, laughing at Bill and Ted, and holding her breath during John Wick. But now, he was right here, looking at her kindly. Not like a star, but like a normal man. He noticed her shock and smiled gently. "Yes, please, black." Maria blinked and nodded fast, backing away awkwardly. She almost spilled a pitcher as she poured his coffee. Her hands trembled more now. She forced herself to breathe. She brought him the cup and placed it gently in front of him. "Thank you," he said warmly. His voice was calm, slow, and sincere. She nodded. You're Keanu Reeves." He chuckled. "Guilty." Maria smiled. "Sorry, it's just unexpected. We don't get many stars here." "I like unexpected places," he replied. "They're real." That stayed with her. They're real. She glanced down at her stomach and wondered how many fake things she had believed in before. Fake promises, fake people, fake love. Keanu noticed her pause. "When's the baby due?" "Next month," she said, touching her belly with one hand. "You're strong," he said simply. She laughed, caught off guard. "How do you know?" He sipped his coffee and looked out the window. "You're here. That says a lot." His words hit her like warmth after cold rain. A few more customers trickled in. Maria took their orders while keeping an eye on Keanu. He didn't use his phone. He didn't ask for anything fancy. He just sat, quietly sipping his coffee, sometimes glancing at the snow like it was the first time he'd seen it. Later, she brought him eggs and toast. "On the house," she whispered, "for the company." He looked at her, surprised. "You?" "Sure, yeah," she nodded. "Our eggs aren't worth Hollywood prices." He laughed a real laugh, not the forced kind, and Maria laughed with him. For the next hour, something strange happened. The pain in her back seemed to ease. The exhaustion in her legs faded. She moved lighter, talked kinder. Her heart, which had been heavy for months, lifted slightly. During a quiet moment, Keanu looked up at her again. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What do you dream about?" Maria blinked. "What, your dream?" he said. "What do you wish for?" No one had asked her that in years. She bit her lip. "I wanted to be a nurse. My mom was sick for a long time. I used to help her. I thought maybe I could help others too." "What stopped you?" She looked down. "Life, money. I had to take care of things." Keanu nodded like he understood. "You still can, you know. Maybe one day." "Not one day," he said. "You can start small. Today, even." Maria tilted her head. "You sound like a movie." He smiled. "I live in one, sometimes." They shared a quiet moment. Outside, the snow thickened. Inside, the warmth grew. A man at the counter suddenly raised his voice. "Hey, I've been waiting 15 minutes. Are you even working? Maria turned fast. I'm sorry, sir. I'll be right. Don't be sorry. The man snapped. Be faster. No wonder you're in this dump. Pregnant. And useless. His words cut sharp. Keanu stood up quietly. His presence was powerful. Not angry. Just still, calm, but commanding. Sir, he said in a low voice, that's not how you talk to people. The man blinked. What? You're not just insulting her, Keanu said. You're insulting every woman who works hard, every person who's been tired, every soul that's holding on. The diner went silent. Maria stared. The rude man rolled his eyes. Whatever, just get me my food. Keanu looked at Maria. Don't serve him. What? She whispered. I'll pay for his meal, Keanu said, pulling out his wallet. But you don't have to serve him. Not today. The man scoffed. Who do you think you are? Keanu handed Maria a $100 bill. Someone who believes kindness is worth more than cheap words. The man grumbled and left, muttering under his breath, but he didn't come back. Maria looked down at the bill. She'd never held a $100 note before. Her eyes welled up. Why did you do that? She asked softly. Keanu looked at her like a friend. Because I saw my mother in you. What do you mean? She worked in a diner too, while raising me and my sisters. She never gave up, even when the world laughed. Maria covered her mouth. She couldn't stop the tears now. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out something small. It was a card. There's a place, he said. They help single mothers study, train, become nurses, or anything, no cost. Maria took the card, slowly, her hands trembling again, but for a new reason. How do you know about this? Because I fund it, he said. She gasped. I don't usually talk about it, he added, but sometimes people need a door. He stood up, finishing his coffee. You gave me breakfast, he smiled. Let me give you a future. He walked out, quiet as he came. Maria stood frozen, holding the card, holding her tears. Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside her heart, something had changed, something had bloomed. Hope. Maria sat on the edge of her small twin bed that night, holding the card Keanu had given her. She ran her fingers over the letters again and again, afraid that if she blinked, the ink would disappear. The name of the foundation was simple, Light Steps. She turned the card over. On the back, there was a handwritten note. Ask for Jules. Tell her I sent you. She stared at that line for a long time. The apartment was cold, but Maria didn't notice. Her heater was broken, and her landlord kept promising to fix it next week. She was used to bundling up with too thin blankets and curling around her belly like a shield. But tonight, her heart was too full to feel the cold. She hadn't cried in months, not because she didn't feel things, but because she had trained herself to stay strong. Tears made her feel weak. Tonight, she let go, not out of sadness, but because someone, finally, had seen her, not as a burden, not as a mistake, not as a waitress with a swollen belly, but as a person, as a mother, as a woman with a dream. And that someone was Keanu Reeves. The next morning, Maria called the number on the card before her shift. Her hands trembled as she pressed each number. A woman answered. Her voice was warm, like someone who smiled even when no one could see her. Hello, Light Steps Foundation. This is Jules. Maria took a deep breath. Hi, chum. Keanu Reeves gave me your number. There was a small pause. Oh, Jules said. Then you must be someone very special. Maria didn't know what to say. Jules continued. Do you have 5 minutes? Yes, Maria whispered. They spoke softly, like old friends. Jules explained that the foundation helped women like her, single, struggling, brave. They offered support, free classes, housing, even daycare for the baby. Maria's chest tightened with emotion. We don't offer charity, Jules said. We offer partnership. You bring the heart, we bring the tools. Maria smiled. I can bring the heart. I've got plenty of that. Then come in tomorrow, Jules said. No pressure. Just talk. Later that day at the diner, Dave noticed Maria moving faster. There was lightness in her steps he hadn't seen in months. Someone looks like she won the lottery, he said. Maria chuckled. I think I did. But the smile faded when a woman named Cassie, another waitress, came rushing in the back door. She was crying. What happened? Maria asked. Cassie held up her phone. They're shutting off my power. I can't pay the bill. Maria hugged her gently. You want me to cover the floor? Take a break. Cassie nodded and wiped her tears. As Maria carried plates to tables, she thought about how many women like her were one paycheck away from breaking. She remembered what Jules said. We don't offer charity. We offer partnership. Suddenly, Maria had an idea. After her shift, she pulled out the card again. She called Jules back. Do you ever help more than one woman at a time? Jules laughed. That's the goal. What if I bring someone with me tomorrow? Maria asked. You won't be the first, Jules said. You won't be the last. The next day, Maria and Cassie stood outside the foundation building. It was nothing fancy, just a small house with peeling paint and a hand-painted sign that said you matter. Inside, it smelled like cinnamon and hope. Jules met them at the door. She had silver curls, a long scarf, and eyes that sparkled like she'd seen sorrow but chose joy anyway. Welcome, Maria, she said, hugging her like a mother. And Cassie, you too. The women sat for hours, talking, crying, laughing. There was tea, cookies, and zero judgment. Jules explained how the program worked. Each woman would get a mentor. They'd meet once a week. They could choose their path: nursing, cooking, business, even art. We don't push, Jules said. We guide. This place runs on belief. Keanu's belief, and now yours. Maria squeezed Cassie's hand. I want to be a nurse, Cassie said. I want to start a bakery. I bake when I'm stressed. Good, Jules nodded. Let's start there. That night, Maria walked home with a folder of forms, a glowing heart, and a dream that felt less like fantasy and more like a plan. But life had its own twists waiting. The next week, Maria fainted during her shift. She had just handed a man his burger when her knees buckled. Her vision blurred. Everything turned gray. When she woke up, she was on the diner floor, head in Dave's lap. You're okay, he said gently. I called an ambulance. No, she whispered. I can't afford that. You can't afford to collapse either, Dave replied. The medics came and helped her up. They said it was exhaustion, low blood pressure, and dehydration. As they lifted her onto the stretcher, a voice broke through the noise. Wait, everyone turned. Keanu Reeves stood in the doorway again. Same HOODIE. Same quiet eyes. Maria's lips parted. How I was nearby, he said. I came to check on you, the medic asked. Sir, are you family? Keanu looked at Maria. Can I say yes? She nodded, tears in her eyes. He got in the ambulance beside her, holding her hand as they rode through the snowy streets. At the hospital, Keanu waited outside while doctors ran tests. He bought her water, crackers, and sat by the window, watching snow fall. When the doctor finally came out, he smiled. She's going to be okay. She just needs rest and support. Keanu exhaled, relieved. When Maria woke, he was beside her. She tried to speak. He held her hand. You don't need to say anything. But she did. Why do you care? He thought for a second. Because too many people walk past the pain of others. I've done it. I've seen it. But not anymore. Maria whispered. I think. You saved me. Keanu smiled softly. No, you're saving yourself. I'm just walking beside you. The next day, Cassie brought Maria soup and flowers from the other waitresses. Dave sent a card that said, your job is waiting, but don't rush back. Jules visited too, with a small pink onesie and a book of baby names. Maria laughed, holding the onesie against her belly. Her name is Leela. Jules smiled. Beautiful. Keanu came back in the evening. He brought no gifts, just time. He said quietly while Maria talked about her mom, her childhood, her fears, and her hopes. She asked, do you ever get tired of being kind? He said, I get tired, but not of kindness. 1 week later, Maria was released. She stood outside the hospital, snow falling again. Keanu offered her his jacket. I'm okay, she said. You've done enough. He shook his head. It's not about doing enough. It's about being present. He paused, then said something unexpected. I have a house in the hills. It's big, quiet. There's a guest cottage. You could stay there until the baby comes. It's private. Safe. Maria looked at him in shock. I can't accept that. It's not a gift, he said. It's a bridge. She was silent. Just think about it, he added. You deserve peace. That night, Maria sat on her bed again. Same spot, same blanket. But everything was different. She looked at the walls of her apartment, cracked paint, leaking pipes, cold floors. She touched her belly. Leela kicked. Maria whispered, "We're getting closer, baby." Then she picked up her phone and texted Jules, "Do you think I should say yes?" Jules replied immediately, "Only if you believe you're worth it." Maria stared at that message for a long time. Then, with slow hands, she texted Keanu back, "Yes." 3 days later, Maria stood outside the gate of Keanu Reeves' property, heart racing inside her chest. The house was nothing like she imagined. It wasn't grand or cold like something from a magazine. It was quiet, tucked into the hills, surrounded by trees and wildflowers. Birds chirped in the distance. The cottage he mentioned sat at the side of the property, a small stone house with soft white curtains in the windows and smoke curling gently from its chimney. The gate opened automatically after she buzzed. As she wheeled her small suitcase up the gravel path, the front door of the cottage opened. Keanu stood there, wearing a plain gray sweatshirt and jeans. He looked more like a neighbor than a Hollywood star. "You made it," he said softly. "I almost turned back," Maria replied. "But you didn't." She smiled weakly. "No, I didn't." Inside, the cottage smelled of lavender and warm wood. There was a fireplace, a small sofa, bookshelves lined with old novels, and a little kitchen, stocked with fruits, vegetables, and snacks. Everything was simple, but comforting, like someone had thought through what a person needed to feel safe. On the counter, there was a handwritten note. "Maria, this is your space. No cameras, no press, no expectations. Rest, heal, and dream freely." She touched the paper gently. Keanu stood by the door. "I'll give you space. If you need anything, my number's saved in the landline. No pressure to talk." "Thank you," she said, tears already forming. As he walked out, he added, "There's soup in the fridge, mushroom. Hope you like mushrooms." Maria laughed, wiping her cheeks. "I love them." That night, Maria curled up in the soft bed, warmer than she had been in months. She whispered to her belly, "We're okay now, Leela. We're safe." And for the first time in a long while, she fell asleep without worry. The next morning, Maria awoke to sunlight peeking through the curtains and the sound of soft wind outside. She walked outside with a cup of herbal tea and found a small garden near the cottage, roses, herbs, and a stone bench beneath an old tree. Keanu sat on the bench, reading a book. He looked up and smiled. "You're up?" "Yeah," she replied. "I feel new." He closed the book and patted the bench beside him. "Want to sit?" Maria joined him, wrapping her cardigan tighter around her. "How are you feeling today?" he asked. "Stronger," she said honestly. "Lighter." Keanu looked out at the trees. "You know, my sister used to say, healing doesn't always look like hospitals. Sometimes it looks like silence, soup, and someone who listens." "Your sister sounds wise." "She is," he said with a smile. "She taught me how to slow down. After I lost some people, I forgot how." They sat quietly. Maria asked, "Do people ever use you for your kindness?" He nodded. "Sometimes. But I'd rather be used for good than protected by coldness." She nodded, holding that thought close. Over the next week, Maria found herself changing. Every morning, she walked the garden. Every afternoon, she called Jules and continued her virtual nursing classes. Every night, she wrote in a journal Keanu left on her nightstand. The cover was blank, but the first page had one line written in pencil: "Your story matters." She filled page after page with memories of her mom, dreams about raising Leela, and notes about how she'd one day care for patients the way she wished someone had cared for her. Mother. Keanu never intruded, but sometimes he brought food. Other times, they sat outside and talked about life, loss, dreams, fears. One evening, Maria asked, "Do you ever feel lonely?" He paused. Double quotes. "Yes," he said, "but not when I'm listening." "To what?" "To people who don't think anyone hears them." She looked at him, deeply moved. "That's what you do. You listen." He smiled. I try. On Sunday, Jules invited Maria to speak on a small video call with other women from the foundation. She was nervous. Her voice shook at first, but then she remembered Keanu's words. Your story matters. She told them about the diner, about the collapse, about the card, about the cottage. One woman asked, "You're staying at his place?" Maria laughed. "Yeah, but he's not what you think. He's real." Jules smiled at the screen. "You're the one who's real, Maria. You're showing all of us what it means to be brave." Later that evening, Maria found a note on her porch. "Meet me by the fire pit at 7. Bring the journal." She walked over as the sun dipped behind the trees. The fire was already crackling, and Keanu sat with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "You're punctual," he said, handing her one. "You're thoughtful," she replied. They sipped quietly. He gestured to the journal. "Can I read a page, Maria?" Hesitated. Then she flipped to one near the middle and handed it to him. He read silently. The page talked about her mom's final days, the nights Maria stayed awake, holding her hand. How she wished she could have done more. How helpless she felt when Keanu finished. He closed the journal and looked at her with tears in his eyes. "You did more than enough," he said. "You gave her love. That's more than most ever get." Maria cried, not because she was broken but because someone understood. As days passed, Maria's energy returned. Her back still ached, her feet still swelled, but her heart was lighter than ever. One morning, while walking the garden, she felt a sharp tug in her stomach. She gasped and held the railing. The pain was sudden, strong. Then it passed, but she knew something was coming. She called her doctor. They asked her to come in that afternoon. Keanu drove her. They didn't speak much on the ride. Maria stared out the window. Keanu kept glancing her way, silently making sure she was okay. At the clinic, the doctor ran a few tests. Finally, she looked at Maria and smiled. "You're healthy, and so is the baby. But I think she's in a hurry to meet you." Maria laughed, but her hands shook slightly. "What do I do?" "Be ready," the doctor said. "Any day now." On the drive back, Maria sat quietly. Keanu asked gently, "Scared? Terrified?" He nodded. "Want to know a secret?" "What?" "I've faced stunt explosions, motorcycle crashes, and angry movie directors, but nothing compares to what you're about to do." She raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm tougher than John Wick?" "Absolutely," he said without hesitation. They both laughed. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She stood in the kitchen, making tea, when a soft knock came on the door. Keanu stood there, holding a small brown box. "What's that?" she asked. "Something that helped me once," he said. Inside the box was a tiny necklace, a small silver circle with a star engraved in it. "This was my mom's," he said. "She wore it when she was nervous, said it reminded her that even in the dark, there's always light somewhere." Maria's throat tightened. "I can't take this." "I'm not giving it to you," Keanu said. "I'm sharing it, just until you need it." She took it slowly, her hands trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. "You'll be a great mother, Maria." "How do you know?" "Because you already are." The next morning, Maria woke to a strange feeling. A wetness. Pain. Then more pain. She grabbed her phone and dialed Keanu. "It's time," she whispered. Within minutes, he was at the door. He carried her to the car gently, whispering calming words as they sped through the early morning streets. The sky was still purple. Her breaths came fast. "I can't," she cried. "Yes," Keanu said, holding her hand tightly. "You can." They reached the hospital just in time. Nurses rushed her and doctors moved fast. And Keanu waited outside the room, hands clasped, pacing the floor. Time moved strangely. Minutes felt like hours. Then, finally, a cry. A tiny, powerful, beautiful cry. A nurse came out and smiled. "You can come in." Maria lay in bed, holding her baby. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "She's here," she whispered. Keanu stepped closer, eyes wide with awe. The baby was tiny, wrapped in pink. Her eyes barely opened, but her presence filled the room like sunlight. "Meet Leela," Maria said. Keanu reached out, gently touching her tiny hand. Leela wrapped her fingers around his pinky. "Hello, Leela," he whispered. "You have your mother's strength already." Maria looked at him and smiled. "Thank you," she said. For everything, you did it, Keanu replied. I just watched something incredible. They sat together, watching the baby sleep. Outside, the world kept spinning. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. The hospital room was dimly lit, quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors and the gentle breath of a sleeping newborn. Maria held baby Leela against her chest, wrapped in the warmth of 2 blankets and 1,000 whispered prayers. Her eyes were tired, swollen from tears, but her face glowed with peace. Keanu sat nearby, not in the spotlight, not drawing attention, just present. He had been in the hallway all night, coming in only when Maria said it was okay. Now, he watched the baby sleep, wonder in his eyes. She looks like you, he said softly. Maria smiled. I hope she has a better life. Keanu looked at her. Gently, she already does, because she has you. Maria looked away, blinking tears. I used to think I'd raise her alone. Now I don't even know how to explain this. You don't have to, he said. Not everything good needs explaining. The hospital kept Maria and Leela for 2 days. During that time, Keanu came every morning with fresh flowers, fruit, and soft baby clothes that smelled of vanilla and hope. He brought children's books, handmade baby soap from a local shop, and once, a hand-carved mobile made of little stars and clouds. I didn't make it, he said, smiling sheepishly, but I found it in a small shop. Reminded me of that necklace. Maria touched the silver necklace he had lent her. She hadn't taken it off since. On the second evening, as the sun turned gold through the blinds, a nurse entered with papers. Time to talk about going home, she said kindly. Maria felt a rush of panic. Home meant many things now. The cold apartment with the leaking pipes no longer felt like home. But was she really allowed to stay in that peaceful cottage? Would this kindness continue? Or would it vanish the way every other good thing had before? After the nurse left, Maria looked at Keanu nervously. I don't know where to go. Keanu didn't hesitate. You come home, he said, to the cottage. Maria looked down. I don't want to take advantage. You've already done so much. He leaned forward. Maria, it's not charity, it's support, real support. Something you've given to others your whole life and never received. She looked up. How long? As long as you need, he said. No rent, no pressure. Just focus on being a mom. Focus on healing. Her lip trembled. But one day, you'll go back to your life, the cameras, the set, the red carpets. And when I do, he said, this place will still be yours. She covered her mouth to keep the sob from escaping. He added gently, don't think of it as a favor. Think of it as a promise. 2 days later, Maria stepped into the cottage with Leela cradled in her arms. Everything was the same, warm, quiet, clean, but it felt different. This time, she wasn't walking in alone. This time, she was walking in as a mother. Keanu had set up a small bassinet near the fireplace. A soft lullaby played on a vintage music box sitting nearby. I hope it's okay, he said. I wasn't sure what babies liked. Maria laughed, overwhelmed. It's perfect. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a rhythm. Maria woke up early for feedings. She took slow walks with Leela bundled against her chest. The garden became her favorite place, calm, private, and full of quiet prayers. Keanu visited often, never overstaying. Sometimes, he brought coffee and sat silently as Maria rocked the baby. Other times, he read aloud from children's books, his voice soft and full of wonder. One morning, Maria asked, do you ever wish you had a family of your own? Keanu paused. I used to, he said. A long time ago. What happened? He looked at the trees. Life, loss, timing. He didn't go deeper, and Maria didn't push. But that night, as she fed Leela in the soft glow of the fireplace, she whispered, you already have a family. You just don't see it yet. One weekend, Jules visited the cottage. She brought other women from the Light Steps Foundation, women who had been through storms of their own. They all gathered in the garden. Some brought their children. Others came with resumes, dreams, or open wounds still healing. Keanu didn't attend the gathering. He simply made sure there were enough chairs, snacks, and warm drinks. Then he disappeared into the main house. He always steps back, Jules said, watching him go. He doesn't need to be seen to be present. Maria nodded. He gives space like it's a gift. The women shared stories that day. They cried. They laughed. One woman read a poem about surviving abuse. Another spoke of rebuilding life after prison. Cassie, the waitress from the diner, shared how she had started selling her cookies online and had her first customer from another state. When it was Maria's turn, she held Leela close and spoke slowly. I thought I was invisible, just a tired girl in a uniform. Then one man saw me, not as a victim, not as charity, but as someone worth saving. And now, I want to be that for others. A few days later, Maria received a surprise letter from the Light Steps Foundation. She had been awarded a full scholarship to a local nursing program. She clutched the paper and fell to her knees. Keanu found her outside, crying into her hands. He rushed over. What's wrong? She held up the letter. I got in. He exhaled and smiled. I never doubted it. She laughed and cried at the same time. I'm scared. You're allowed to be. What if I fail? Then you'll try again. What if I can't handle school and the baby? Then we'll find help. Maria paused. We? He looked at her. Gentle but steady. Yes, we. As classes began, Maria's life shifted once more. Mornings were for studying. Afternoons were for Leela. Evenings were quiet, filled with soft music, bottle feedings, and occasional visits from Keanu, who brought cookies from Cassie or books Jules recommended. Maria often felt overwhelmed. She cried on her textbook once, holding Leela in one arm while highlighting anatomy terms with the other. But she didn't give up. Keanu never hovered, but he was always near. Once, when Maria was sick with a fever and couldn't leave bed, he stayed the night in the cottage guest room, feeding Leela and warming soup until Maria's chills faded. Another time, he found a note Maria had written on her fridge. You're not enough. He crossed it out. Underneath, he wrote, You're more than enough. She kept that note taped above her desk. As the months passed, people began to talk. Someone saw Maria walking with Keanu in the garden. Another neighbor spotted him carrying a diaper bag. Then came the whispers, tabloids asking questions, photos taken from a distance, theories spreading online. One morning, Maria woke to hundreds of messages. A blog had posted a blurry photo with the caption, Who is Keanu's secret family? Maria panicked. She called him. I didn't mean to bring trouble. You didn't, he said calmly. What do? We protect what matters, he replied. I'll handle it. Keanu released a quiet, firm statement through his team. She's not a scandal. She's a friend, a mother, and a hero in her own right. Please respect her privacy. Maria cried reading it. He hadn't denied her. He had defended her. But the pressure didn't disappear. Paparazzi followed from a distance. Neighbors speculated. People on the internet twisted the story into gossip. Maria felt exposed again, like her dignity had been stolen. One night, she stood outside the cottage, tears streaming down her cheeks. Keanu found her under the tree where they used to sit. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know. Why can't they just let me live? Because they don't understand what it means to be real. Then why do you keep doing this? Helping people, being kind. Don't you get tired? He looked at her. Yes, he said. But I get more tired pretending not to care. Maria collapsed into his arms, and he held her, silent, steady. A week later, Maria made a decision. She wrote a letter, not to the press, not to the world, but to herself. She titled it, This Is Who I Am. She shared parts of it with the women at the foundation. Then, one evening, she stood in front of a small community event, holding baby Leela in her arms, and read it aloud. I am not a scandal. I am not a project. I am a woman. I was a waitress. I am a mother. I am a nursing student. And I am not here because a famous man saved me. I am here because I dared to hope, and someone gave me space to grow. The room went quiet. Then, applause. Not loud, not for show, but the kind that reaches your soul. After the event, Keanu stood by the door, unnoticed by most. He didn't take the microphone. He didn't speak, but Maria found him. Did you hear every word? Thank you, she said. No, he replied. Thank you for proving that kindness still matters. Maria never imagined that kindness would come with a cost. But after the speech, after the articles, after the whispers, the cost had a name. Attention. Good attention, bad attention. It all felt the same when it poured into fast. Some people praised her strength. Others accused her of using Keanu for fame. A few even suggested the baby was his. Despite no truth behind it, she wanted to shut it all off, to disappear. But she couldn't, because now she had Leela, and the world was watching. Keanu told her, "People will always talk. Don't let them change who you are." But the pressure grew. One afternoon, she found a letter slipped under the cottage door. No name, just ink on torn paper, gold digger. Her hands trembled as she read it. She backed against the wall and slid to the floor, hugging Leela close. When Keanu arrived that evening with a basket of groceries, he saw the look on her face. What happened? She handed him the note, eyes filled with hurt. He read it, jaw tightening. "I'll increase security," he said quietly, "and we'll add cameras." "I don't want cameras," she whispered. "I want peace." He sat beside her. "You deserve peace, but you also deserve protection." Maria looked at him, something new in her eyes. "Keanu, maybe I should go." He froze. "Go where?" "Somewhere far. Start over. No noise, no headlines." His voice was soft, but firm. "Maria, you don't run from truth, you live it." Still, the next morning, Maria packed her bags, not because she wanted to leave, but because she thought she had to. She placed Lila's small clothes inside, folded gently, like hope being put away for later. As she zipped the bag, Keanu appeared. At the door. "Don't," he said simply. "I need to." "No," he said. "You need to remember who you are." She turned away. "You're not weak," he continued. "You're not someone who hides. You're a mother, a fighter, a woman, who stood in front of strangers and said, 'I am enough.' Did you forget that?" She shook her head, voice breaking. I can't breathe." He walked up to her and held her hand. "Then let's make space for air, not distance." That evening, Keanu made a call. He didn't tell Maria what it was for. The next day, a team from the Light Steps Foundation arrived. They brought banners, folding chairs, and signs that read, "Kindness is not weakness. Courage is not fame." They weren't planning a protest. They were planning a gathering, not to defend Maria, but to celebrate her. Maria stood on the cottage porch as the crowd grew. Not a large crowd, just 30 or so women, some with children, some with books in their hands, all with respect in their eyes. Jules stood in the center. She held Maria's hand and said, "You reminded us we can rise. Now let us remind you." Cassie brought cookies. Another woman brought flowers. One teenage girl read a letter she had written after hearing Maria's story. "You made me believe I could be more than a mistake." She read aloud. Maria cried silently. Keanu stayed back, leaning against the tree. He didn't say a word, but his eyes never left her. After the gathering, Maria walked up to him. "That was you, wasn't it?" "It was them," he said. "You made the call." "Maybe," she smiled. "You always show up without standing in front." He looked at her with quiet pride. "You're the one standing now." As summer arrived, Maria's nursing classes grew harder. She stayed up late, rocking Leela in one arm and studying medical diagrams in the other. Sometimes she fell asleep on her textbook. Sometimes she cried from exhaustion. But every time she wanted to quit, a soft knock would come at the door, a cup of tea, a note of encouragement. A children's book for Leela. Keanu never missed a moment to lift her gently. One evening, he brought her a gift, a framed photo of Maria, holding Leela the day she was born. "Where did you get this?" she asked, stunned. "I asked the nurse that day," he said. "I wanted you to see what strength looks like." Maria clutched the photo to her chest. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of what happens after all this, when the world moves on, when you go back to being, well, you." Keanu sat down beside her. "I'm not going anywhere." "But why?" she asked, finally letting the question out. "Why me? You could help anyone." "Because you didn't ask," he replied, "and that told me everything." Maria looked at him. "I've helped many people," he continued. "Some saw it as a shortcut, others as a ticket, but you You saw it as a responsibility. You didn't just take, you gave back. To others, to yourself, to your daughter. She wiped her eyes. I don't know how to thank you. You already have. As the seasons shifted, so did Maria. She completed her first year of nursing school. She passed every class. She even started tutoring another young mother who had joined the program through light steps. She still lived in the cottage, not because she had no choice, but because it had become her sanctuary. Leela took her first steps in the garden one bright afternoon. Keanu was there, holding out his arms as she stumbled forward. Maria laughed through tears, clapping her hands. She's walking, she shouted. Keanu scooped the child up gently and said, just like her mom, falling forward, always moving. But peace wasn't permanent. One day, Maria came home from class and found a man waiting near the gate. He wore sunglasses and leaned on a fancy black car. As she got closer, her stomach dropped. It was Jared, Lila's father, the one who had walked away when he learned she was pregnant. He smiled awkwardly. Hey, Maria. She froze. What are you doing here? I heard about you. The articles, the Keanu stuff. Figured I should come see my kid. She stepped back, holding her bag close. You don't get to show up now. I made a mistake, he said, but I want to be part of her life. No, I'm her father. You were never there. People change, he said, smirking. Besides, it's not like you're alone anymore. Must be nice having a celebrity sponsor. The way he said it made her feel dirty, like all her growth had been nothing but luck. Keanu appeared behind her. His presence was quiet but powerful. You should leave, Keanu said. Jared scoffed. Of course, here comes the bodyguard. Keanu stepped forward. You don't get to mock her or claim her. Not now. And who are you to decide? Someone who showed up when you didn't. Keanu replied. Jared stepped back. Keanu added, this isn't about ego. It's about responsibility. If you want to be in your daughter's life, prove it. In court, through honesty, through action, not through showing up with a smirk and a car. Jared's confidence cracked. We'll see, he muttered before getting in the car and driving away. Maria stood frozen. You okay? Keanu asked. She nodded slowly. Thank you. You don't need me to fight your battles. Maybe not, she said, but sometimes it helps to know someone will stand beside me when the past tries to return. That night, she wrote in her journal. The past came back today, but this time I didn't flinch, because I'm not who I was. Because this time I wasn't alone. As months passed, Jared filed a legal petition for visitation rights. The court asked for proof of stability, care, and intention. Maria stayed calm through every hearing. She showed up prepared. She didn't attack. She didn't run. She just told the truth. About Leela. About absence. About what love really meant. One day in court, the judge looked directly at Jared and asked, why now? He stammered, I want to be a better man. The judge replied, then start by respecting the one who raised your child alone. In the end, Jared was given limited supervised visits, but Maria held the power now. And she used it with grace. When she returned to the cottage, Maria found Keanu in the garden. She sat beside him. We did it, she said. You did it. Thank you for standing by me. Keanu turned to her. I wasn't standing by you, he said softly. I was standing with you. Autumn settled over the hills like a warm quilt. Golden leaves floated gently down the path outside the cottage. Inside, Maria stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup while Leela crawled across the rug, giggling as she chased a wooden spoon. A year had passed. A whole year since she had met Keanu Reeves. A year since she had fainted in the diner. A year since kindness stepped into her life without asking for anything in return. Maria looked around the small home books on the shelves, baby clothes folded on the couch, her nursing textbooks marked with sticky notes, and she felt something she had never known before. Peace. Her graduation from the nursing program was just a week away. It was a small ceremony. Nothing grand, just a few folding chairs, a simple podium, and a line of determined women who had all beaten impossible odds. Jules called her the night before. Ready for tomorrow? I think so, Maria replied, holding the phone between her shoulder and ear while feeding Leela. You're Not just graduating, Jules said. You're becoming someone your younger self dreamed of. Maria paused, her voice soft. I just want to make her proud. You already have, Jules said. The morning of graduation. Maria stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her borrowed white coat. Her hands trembled a little. You okay? Keanu asked from the doorway. Holding Leela. Maria turned and smiled. I've never worn anything like this before. You wear it well, he said. He gently passed Leela to her, the baby reaching for her mother's cheek with tiny fingers. Do you know what today is? Maria whispered to her daughter. It's the day your mom becomes a nurse. Leela giggled, as if she understood. The ceremony was held at a local community hall. Simple stage. Folding chairs. Rows of women, most with children on their laps or relatives holding signs that said you did it, and we believe in you. Maria sat in the second row, heart thumping. When her name was called, she stepped up to the microphone. She looked out into the crowd and saw Jules smiling, Cassie clapping wildly, and Keanu standing quietly at the back, holding Leela in his arms. Maria's voice shook, but she spoke clearly. A year ago, I was a pregnant waitress with no plan, no money, no voice. I thought strength meant surviving alone. But now I know real strength is letting people in and rising together. The crowd applauded. Some women wiped tears. Maria stepped off the stage and walked straight to Leela, taking her into her arms. Keanu smiled. You did it. We did it, she said. After the ceremony, a small group gathered at the cottage. Nothing fancy, just music, laughter, and stories shared around the fire pit. Someone asked Keanu to speak. He shook his head. This day belongs to Maria. But Maria called out, say something, please. He stood slowly and looked around the circle. I've spent my life in films, stories with heroes, villains, endings that make people feel something. But today I saw the real thing. No cameras, no scripts, just truth. And I'll say this, Maria is the bravest person I've ever known. She lowered her eyes, emotional. He added, we all have a choice in life. We can walk past pain, or we can sit beside it. Maria didn't just sit beside her own. She turned it into purpose. And that purpose is going to save lives. The group clapped. Maria whispered to herself, I'm not invisible anymore. 2 weeks later, Maria started working at a local clinic. Not a big hospital, not a fancy office, just a small place with chipped paint and a long waiting list full of people who needed help, but rarely asked for it. She wore her white coat with pride. She listened more than she spoke. She held hands when others looked away. And every time she walked out of the building, tired but fulfilled, Leela would reach for her with a smile that reminded her why she kept going. One afternoon, Maria stood in the break room, sipping tea, when a young woman walked in with messy hair and red eyes. You're Maria, right? She asked quietly. Yeah, you're the one from the story. The waitress who Maria smiled gently. That was part of it, not the whole story. The girl sat down. I don't know what to do. I'm pregnant. He left, and I don't have anyone. Maria took her hand. You do now. That night, she visited Keanu's house. They sat on the porch as Leela slept inside. Remember the cottage? She asked. I remember every corner. I think it's time we open it to someone else. He looked at her. Are you sure? Yes, Maria said. You gave me a space to grow. Now it's my turn to pass it on. Keanu smiled. Then let's do it together. Within days, the cottage was cleaned, stocked, and made ready again. This time, Maria wrote the note and left it on the table. You matter. Rest here. Heal here. Begin again. Maria. In the months that followed, Maria continued her work. More women came to light steps. Some were young mothers, others were older, starting over. Every story different, every journey hard, but each one held together by the same thread. Hope. Keanu visited less frequently, not because he vanished, but because he knew Maria no longer needed his help. She had become the helper. The mentor, the anchor. But on quiet days, he still showed up with tea and stories. He read to Leela. He asked about the clinic. He sat beside Maria on the bench under the old tree. One day, she turned to him. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you didn't walk into the diner that morning? He looked at her with a soft smile. No, because some paths are meant to cross, even if they come from two different worlds, especially then, he said. On the first anniversary of Lila's birth, they held a small gathering. Friends from the foundation came. Cassie brought cupcakes. Jules brought candles. Keanu brought a book. What is it? Maria asked. He handed it to her. The cover was blank. She opened it and gasped. Inside were pictures, handwritten notes, pieces of paper with quotes from Maria's journal, and letters from women whose lives she had touched. At the back, a note from Keanu. You thought I gave you something, but really, you gave me everything. You reminded me that kindness isn't a gesture, it's a way of living. Thank you for letting me walk part of your journey. Maria closed the book and looked at him. You changed my life. He shook his head. You changed mine. Years later, people still told the story. Some exaggerated it. Some got details wrong. But Maria didn't mind, because every time someone asked her if the story was true, she smiled and said, it started with a cup of coffee and a tired girl who thought no one saw her. And then she'd add, but someone did, and everything changed. As for Lila, she grew up strong. Brave. Curious. And every time she passed the old photo on the wall, the one of her in her mother's arms, taken on the day she was born, she pointed and asked, was this the beginning? And Maria always answered with a smile, no, baby, that was the moment we learned how to begin again.